Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Well, gentlemen, I appreciate the job that you do with regards to trying to root out fraud. Unfortunately, what we've done today, Operation Choke Point, has gone well beyond fraud. It's gone beyond that. It now is, as we've heard this morning multiple times, going to an industry-based approach to try and get rid of everything and everybody in that entire industry versus only the bad actors in the industry, which is wrong. You know it's wrong. I know it's wrong. We discussed this, Mr. DeLaray and Mr. Osterman. We discussed this individually, and I thank you for the letters that we've received as a result of you trying to clarify your position that as long as the business is doing legal business with legal entities, they're okay. But, gentlemen, we've got a problem. It's continuing. It has not gone away, has it? I can tell you, I can sit here this morning and give you case after case of what I've been talking about. I've got here in the paper, documented by the newspapers. Friday, May the 30th, there was a gun manufacturer in Hyannisport, Massachusetts. Here's one from 19th of May that talks about a firearms training and supply company in Florida. Here's Armory in Nevada. So, gentlemen, it's not a rogue agency doing this. It's not a rogue examiner. It's still going on now. What are you going to do to stop it? Mr. Osterman.
Congressman Luetkemeyer, what we've done is we've tried to be very clear in putting out our guidance to say very publicly and clearly that as long as banks have appropriate risk mitigation measures in place, we're not going to prohibit or discourage them from doing business with anyone who they want to do business with. And we've said that. We've actually had meetings with our examiners. Our division directors have met with our examiners and sent that message to them. And we've sent that notice to the banks themselves and said, if you're aware of this happening, let us know.
Mr. Osterman, all due respect, you know and I know, as a former examiner, and you know it, that the banks are scared to death whenever an examiner comes in there and threatens them. Well, there is that problem. And I've talked to the bankers about this. And I said, okay, if they are telling you to do away with an entire book of business, which is going on, I said, have you asked them to put it in writing? And they said, yes. What did they say? And he said, the examiner refused to do that. So the examiner's not giving them the documentation to give you the track to go back to that individual. And as we see here, it's not going on in one state, it's going on across the country. This has got to be something that has got to be concerning to you if you're worried about this. If you're not, I've discussed with Mr. DeLaray and you guys both about putting in place a safe harbor. Both of your agencies have denied wanting to work with us on that. The other day we had CFPB in here to try and ask them also if they would put together a safe harbor for the banks to be able to do business with legitimate customers that they've been doing business with for the last 25 years. I had a bank tell me he's had to get rid of a customer that's been with him 25 years. No reason other than the examiner said, hey, you can't do business with these guys anymore because they're in an industry that's under heightened scrutiny. So as a result of that, I offered a bill a couple weeks ago that's going to put in place a safe harbor. Would you guys be willing to support that? Mr. DeLaray.
Congressman, we certainly have seen the bill that you've offered. We're reviewing it, and we'll obviously continue to do that and work with you and your office on it. I think that what's important from our perspective is that we maintain the tools that are necessary to fight fraud against consumers. We have attempted in
response. Well, to that effect, we want to work with you, but you haven't been able to work with us. You haven't been honest with me. Mr. Osterman, are you willing to work with us on the safe harbor? How come we haven't got together yet? You guys wouldn't give me one.
We would be willing to work with you.
Do you like my bill?
We have concerns. Frankly, there are difficulties in trying to create a safe harbor in terms of avoiding unintended consequences.
See, gentlemen, by the going around the corners here, what you're doing this morning, it gives me great pause. The fact that we're still doing this, and now you won't go along with the safe harbor. You're saying, well, we can't do this, can't do that. It tells me you're not willing to give up choke point. You're willing to continue to go out here and do a broad brush approach to get rid of the entire industry, and that's wrong. Mr. DeLaray, one more quick question. Gentleman who was in charge of putting choke point together, Mr. Joe Sweet, is that correct?
He was the author of the original proposal, yes.
How come he was reassigned?
I obviously need to be careful about talking about individuals in this setting, but it's been reflected in the documents that he was in Washington on detail from his home U.S. Attorney's office. He's a career assistant U.S. attorney. He was here on a temporary detail that was 6 months. It was extended to a year, and when that ended, he went back to his home office, as was always the expectation he would do.
Interesting, it happened just a few days after we got the letter. Thank you very much. I yield back.